see it.
I do want to ask you about covering Paul Skenes, because, that's, obviously just incredible story. The whole star, power aspect of it as well, with he and Olivia Dunn power couple. I'll ask you first. By the way, I don't know if you can hear my dog. She's barking now, and
No,
I
you're
told
okay.
you
You
she
see
would
me
join.
looking down. That was me looking at my dog who had to walk over here and sit right beside me. Yeah.
Yeah, my dog Mabel always tries to join the podcast. She
Love
wants to
that.
be a third host. But anyway, what's it been like covering Paul Skenes?
Interesting, amazing, really special. I would say there's a lot. It's really hard to put it into words, because these are the types of moments growing up as a sports fan, but also as someone in sports broadcasting, that you kind of dream of covering these types of generational athletes. It's something I don't take for granted at all, even though it's become so normal to me now. But what's really cool about covering Paul is when he was drafted by the Pirates last year, I had been working sort of with the Pirates just in social media, and I had the opportunity to do a one-on-one sit down with him after he was drafted. It was so cool to see how much he's grown in such a short period of time. And he is just such a gem of a human being. Like, to see him be this excited college kid with so much ahead of him to now this professional, he's polished. He's Paul. And every sense of the word that anybody has described him as being humble and a hard worker and sort of intense about his process, but also just such a nice human. I mean, everything about him is true that you hear. He is truly a gem to cover. But it's also really interesting because in Pittsburgh with the Pirates, it's sort of small media, right? It's sort of reporters can walk in, you can kind of talk to whoever you want, you have time. And then you see LA come in with Shohei Ohtani, and it's like, will he talk today? No, he only talks this day, this time. And it's because if he didn't, he'd have 900 people talking to him all the time, right? Like, he's Shohei Ohtani. Right. And that's sort of in such a short period of time how we've seen it start to be with Paul. You go somewhere, and as a reporter and as the team reporter, somebody who needs to talk to him occasionally, I have to be mindful of the fact that 900 people are going to want to talk to him every city we go to on the first day of a series. So I have to be mindful of the fact that they're probably going to make a designated media time for him, and that's going to be it. And you have to abide by that. Even if you get to see him every day and have that access, you have to be mindful of the fact that so many people want his attention all of the time. So I think seeing the way that Paul Skenes has had to sort of, not him himself, but PR and people behind the scenes have sort of had to develop his process has been really interesting, because if not, it can be so overwhelming. So I think getting to see how that works is really interesting. I know that's probably not the answer people want, but it's so crazy to see someone who's a rookie have to start getting treated that way, because so many people are interested in who he is, and rightfully so. He's generational, right? What we're seeing him do right now could be once in a lifetime to cover somebody like this. So I don't take it lightly, but he is everything you want him to be and more. He's such a good human. He's such a good friend. He's just a good person. And he's so humble and respectable. And I can't imagine being 22 years old and having all of those eyes on you all the time, having the magnification of being the starter in the National League for the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Just being there, wanting to see you, and the weight of the world feels like it's on your shoulders, and he's handling it beautifully. Not to mention your girlfriend is one of the most famous people in the world right now as well. So he handles everything so beautifully, and covering him is truly, something I do not take lightly, and it will definitely be, I'm sure, on the ticks of your reporter bucket list that you go through one day looking back.
Yeah, no question. The energy in that ballpark when he was pitching on Sunday was electric, and you could see that coming through. I know the Pirates ended up losing that game, but yeah, to experience that, it looked fun, you watch, I watch a lot of baseball, obviously, and I'm watching this game, and I'm seeing it looks like great weather, Paul Skenes on the mound. I'm seeing the crowd give him a standing O once he exited, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of good energy in that ballpark. Is the fan base, it looks like on Paul Skenes days, the ballpark is jumping. Is that fair to say?
100%. And I'm someone who's from Pittsburgh, right? I've seen every Pirates season that's, it goes up and down, and hasn't always been like that. And you could go to Pirates games and, get a ticket last second, and you can't do that anymore. People want to be there. They want to watch this team. And it's not just because of him. I mean, there's a lot of good happening right now. And Jared Jones was bringing in a crowd. I mean, that kid's electric as well. But yeah, what Paul Skenes has
Yeah.
been able to do for this city and for Pirates baseball is something, from someone who's seen a lot of baseball in this city, it is very special. And that place is absolute madness when he pitches. And that ballpark, when I say it's the best ballpark in America, it is. But when it's like at full capacity, that's when you really see it at its peak. And it is something cool when he pitches and everybody's silent for like every single pitch. Just like they're just enamored by what he does. And I think that's a really cool thing to witness.
Yeah, he has that it factor. We've had that in Boston, when Chris Sale was at his peak, when Pedro Martinez was at his peak, and Roger Clemens all the way back in the day. They're headline acts, and that's something that I think in the game of baseball, it was a time where you didn't have as many marquee matchups because of the age we live in baseball, right? Where analytics, you'd have openers, you'd have bullpen days, you'd have guys, if they get through 5 innings, that's an accomplishment nowadays. But to have a guy like that who is a bona fide ace who can give you 7, 8 innings on any given start, that is excitement. That brings excitement to the ballpark, and that's really come through watching Paul Skenes pitch. I do want to ask you though. You mentioned his girlfriend Olivia Dunn, and
Yeah.
obviously from afar you can see that she has been there at games, and she's obviously very supportive of her boyfriend. Have you gotten a chance to talk with her and interview her?
Yeah, we interviewed her on Paul's debut in PNC Park
Okay.
on the broadcast. She was so wonderful. Paul's parents were a little too like nervous and bought into the moment to talk, and I was totally respectful of that. We asked Livy, and she was like, "Absolutely, I'll do it." And I mean, she's so sweet. She's very, very kind. You can see why those two get along, and they're together. They're both just really genuine human beings. But it's just crazy because she's so young. She's so young. You talk to her, you're like, you're 22 years old, and you have so much of this attention, and she's just still like a young kid. So it's super fun. Not that I'm that much older than them, but there is such a difference between like 22 and 27 where I am now, like when you're in college and how you live your life and just go about your day to day. But she was so lovely to meet. I mean, I talked to her in person, like on camera, obviously on the broadcast, but then got to talk to her in the tunnel later after the game and just chatted up and just be girls. And she's really, really sweet. So she's been really nice to have here, but her life's crazy. I don't know how she does it. She was just in Paris, and she's here in PNC Park and
Yeah.
everywhere. So, I mean, that girl's got a crazy schedule of her own.
Oh, that's awesome. So you're covering the Pirates, and obviously this is your first season. They've obviously had some tough years. But this year, they're above 500. They're kind of in a similar spot to where the Red Sox are right now. The Red Sox have a bit of a better record, but in terms of where they are in the wild card race, Red Sox, as we record this, are 2.5 games back. The Pirates, I think, are 3.5 games back going into tonight, and they have a couple of teams ahead of them, so it might be a little bit tougher road because the Red Sox are only trailing the last team in the wild card race, the third wild card spot right now. So that's what they are. But they were buyers at the deadline. It looked like, adding to the roster. Ben Cherington, obviously, Red Sox fans know very well. At the helm, buying. Is there belief in Pittsburgh that this team can make the playoffs?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think there was the Diamondback series that just happened was very heartbreaking. We were very much in those 2 games that we lost. So I think there was, a really sense of disappointing, just like, shoot, like we're so close. Like we just need to get that big win every once in a while. And we've done that at points in the season. So yeah, there is belief. There's also belief when you add guys like IKF and De La
Yeah.
Cruz to your lineup, and you have those bigger bats in there. That's what sort of Pirates fans, I think, have been waiting for. And with that being said, not having to have had to give up a lot at the trade deadline was big because we need every piece that we have right now. But there's a lot of belief because what our starting rotation looks like. When you have
Mm-hmm.
a strong core like what you do, you can go far. And I think that's just where we're at, and nobody feels down and out of it. I think there's always the comeback in us. They're a gritty team right now, but yeah, there's a ton of belief in the Pittsburgh Pirates, and that's a very exciting thing for a Pirates fan, but also just for baseball in general in the city of Pittsburgh. I know everybody's rallying behind this team, but there is the belief because of the pieces that are in place right now.